Forget everything you think you know about courage. You've seen the Hollywood blockbusters. You've heard the sanitized stories of heroism. But you have never seen this. This is not a story. This is a testament. The official record of a mission so utterly impossible, so far beyond the realm of protocol that the United States Coast Guard itself, the very organization designed for impossible rescues, declared it a complete lost cause, a suicide run, a certainty of death for anyone foolish enough to try. They were about to witness an act of defiance so profound, so fundamentally human, it would forever redefine the meaning of the word hero in their training manuals. It would become a legend whispered in briefing rooms for decades to come. The problem wasn't just the storm. It was the storm. Hurricane Medusa wasn't just a weather event, it was a monster. A freak of nature that had absorbed so much heat from the ocean, it had become a force of pure destruction. The cost of not acting was a brutal calculation. 32 men and women, fathers, sons, brothers, swallowed whole by the cold Atlantic. The official response from command was swift, logical, and heartbreaking. No aircraft can fly in those winds. No ship can withstand those seas. It was a death sentence delivered over a secure channel. But in the back of that room, away from the command table, stood one man who disagreed. Aviation Survival Technician First Class Mikey Gallo, a rescue swimmer. They called him the Anchor. A compliment and a slight. A compliment because he was steady, unmovable, reliable. A slight because at 45 he was seen as past his prime. Not a hotshot pilot, not a decorated officer, just the guy who jumped. And he was about to make a choice that would leave every single person in that room, and eventually the world, speechless. Michael Gallo didn't look like a hero. No chiseled jaw, no swagger, just tired eyes that carried the weight of 2 decades of service. At 45, in a field dominated by men in their 20s, he was seen as a relic, too quiet, too reserved, a man who relied on instinct and experience rather than new machines. The mission, on paper, was reconnaissance only, a flyby, a formality. The pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Valkyrie Jensen, was one of the best, a natural flyer who could make a Jayhawk dance. But even she was terrified, her knuckles white on the controls. The winds were savage, like flying through an invisible blender, a headwind slamming at 150 knots, then a sudden tailwind trying to rip the rotors off the mast. The flight computer screened warnings she'd only ever seen in the simulator. Every instinct in her body begged her to turn back. And then, through a break in the storm, they saw it. A single flicker of light. The Odyssey, broken, listing at 45 degrees, seconds from capsizing. And clinging to its rails, faces turned to the sky, were the survivors. The Coast Guard rulebook was clear. A hoist rescue in those conditions was impossible. The odds of survival were 0. The commander's voice crackled over the radio. Calm. Final. The mission was over. But then, inside the cabin, another voice broke through. Calm. Resolute. The voice of Michael Gallo. It wasn't a request. It was a declaration. He was invoking the sacred motto of the rescue swimmer, so others may live. He knew the risks. A snapped cable, a waterspout, a rogue wave smashing him into the hull. Death could come in a second, but in the faces on that ship he saw his own family. And Lieutenant Jensen made her choice. She lied, a career-ending lie, to her commander, buying her swimmer the chance he demanded. Trust between pilot and swimmer is absolute. She bet her entire future on the Anchor. The Jayhawk descended, fighting for every foot of altitude. The storm was a vortex of chaos. Just as Gallo was lowered, a wave tore the first fisherman from the deck. Gone in an instant. A gut punch. But Gallo didn't hesitate. He plunged into the abyss. 30 seconds of silence. No word. No signal. The crew held their breath. Had they just sent their brother to his death? Then yellow. Gallo broke the surface, a man in tow. He had him. One by one he fought the sea. The waves were liquid mountains, alive, malevolent, crashing down to crush him. For over an hour he battled, muscles burning, lungs on fire. 10 people. 15. 20. And then the fuel warning light flashed. The helicopter was out of time. They had to leave, but 12 people still clung to the dying ship. This is where the story should have ended. A partial rescue. A tragedy softened by survival. But it didn't. Through the storm came another helicopter. And another. The commander, hearing Jensen's radio malfunction, knew exactly what she had done. He had denied the mission officially, but behind the curtain, he scrambled every Jayhawk on the eastern seaboard. A daisy chain of rescue and mid-air refueling never before attempted in peacetime. He had bet his career on his people. The final image burned into memory came with the last survivor. As he rose into the hoist, he looked down. Gallo wasn't in the water anymore. He was on the sinking deck itself, shielding a father and son with his own body as a wave swallowed the bow. He refused to leave until the last soul was safe. Hours later, on dry land, the count was made. 31 survivors, 1 lost, and 1 rescue swimmer who had defied a hurricane and won. When Gallo was finally pulled into the last helicopter, he collapsed. Spent, but alive. He hadn't just done his job. He had redefined it. He showed the world what it means to refuse to let hope die. Petty Officer Michael Gallo received the Coast Guard Medal. But he never spoke of that day. When asked, he would only say that the true heroes were the 31 who held on long enough to be saved and the pilots who broke the rules to make it possible. This kind of courage happens every single day, far from the cameras. It doesn't ask for fame. It doesn't ask for glory. It only asks that we never forget. If this story moved you, share it. Let the world know that heroes are still out there, still jumping into the storm. For us.